Hey guys, welcome back to my weekly report of the games I've been playing, and this week I played two games, starting off with Yakuza 0 Director's Cut. So I only put maybe an hour and a half, if that, into the game this week, and I continued to play as Majima. I'm still technically on chapter 3, so I found out more about him. So he is the manager of this establishment that he works at, but he's just the manager. He's in charge of running the place. He actually doesn't own the place himself. So Majima basically does not want to actually work at this establishment. The only reason he's working there is because he's indebted to the Yakuza, to a certain family. But on top of that, he doesn't just want to pay off his debt. He actually wants to get back in with the Yakuza. So he was kicked out because of his debt or something else. But as of right now, it seems like it's just the debt. So the owner of the actual establishment has Majima on a leash because of his debt. And he promises that he maybe will talk to the leader of the family he wants to rejoin for the Yakuza. And Majima, of course, hates this, but of course he has to play ball if he wants to have a chance to actually get back in with the Yakuza. The owner of the establishment also ends up taking away Majima's best girl, that is the best earner, and in doing so, Majima has to scramble and actually steal a girl from a different establishment, a rival establishment, in order to make the difference. And that's currently what I'm set out to do for chapter 3, and that's where I left off. So that is everything I have to say for the game for right now, but I do plan on playing it more, of course. So that was Yakuza 0 Director's Cut. And the last game I played this week, of course, is Lost Soul Aside. So the basic premise of the story for this game, you play as a guy named Kaiser, and he's this imperial guy that's like a soldier type of dude, and he arrives in his hometown and he reunites with his sister and his friends, and they are all planning to basically rebel against the emperor of this city that they live outside of. But before they can actually do that, the entire city gets invaded by these monsters from a different dimension, and these monsters actually steal and consume human souls. And during the whole chaos, Kaiser gets separated from his friends and his sister. He falls underground, and when he wakes up, he hears this mysterious voice that turns out to be an ancient dragon that grants him his power. And then once Kaiser finally gets to the surface, he reunites with his sister, but unfortunately the reunion is short-lived because Kaiser ends up getting knocked out by falling debris, and his sister Luisa ends up getting used as a meat shield by one of the Imperial guards to save himself, and her soul gets stolen. But Kaiser, of course, is devastated, thinking that his sister is lost for good. But the dragon that he met that is floating around him tells him that all hope is not lost. Her soul has only been taken and is being stored in these soul crystals. And in order for him to get her back, he has to get those back and take it to the Life Nexus, this source of power. And that's what Kaiser ends up doing. And of course, his friends help him along the way. And you know, that's basically the premise of the story, and the story itself is alright. You know, at first I was a little invested, even though the dialogue and the line deliveries are all over the place. That's one of the famous things about this game. Yes, it's like Resident Evil 1 level of hilariously bad. But, you know, I don't really care that much. But the meat and potatoes of the game, of course, it's combat. And the combat is a hack and slash style of combat. Think of Bayonetta and Devil May Cry. Because some people unfortunately thought this game was a Souls-like. It is not. It's not even remotely close to that. And for the combat's sake, it's actually a lot of fun. And you get 4 different types of weapons eventually throughout the game. So you get the sword to start off with, then you get the great sword, then you get a pole, which is like a spear, like a twin blade style of weapon, and the last one that you get access to is the scythe. So all of these have different skill trees, very expansive skill trees, and you also are able to like switch between these weapons almost on the fly. Like, you also have these special abilities that you can obtain from the dragon, and the dragon's name is Arena. And these abilities stem from like shooting projectiles from your sides, putting a barrier around yourself. You also have a tree that heals you, a tree that spits out electricity. You have like a force push. You have different types of abilities that you can get that require arena cores that you can either find throughout the story or from completing challenges, because there is challenges in this game where it kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy VII's training challenges, where well, in this one you go and find these like portals that you have to activate, and it transfers you over to this arena where you fight a bunch of enemies, and then you have different objectives if you want all of the rewards, which could be like not taking damage, defeating all the enemies except for one, a very specific one, complete it under this certain amount of time, that type of stuff. So that's in this game, and these challenge rooms are actually pretty well hidden throughout the game. I've only found like 3 or 4 of these things, and the game is pretty lengthy. It took me about 19 hours to actually beat it. I was expecting to beat this game in 15 hours, but like, this game is one of those games where you think it's gonna end, but no, it just keeps going. But yeah, so you have those challenges, and once you beat the game, you actually get access to boss rush mode, and you also get access to higher difficulties, because in the beginning of the game there's no difficulty option, you just play the game. But yeah, on top of the combat stuff, you also have your potions that you can put it on your hotbar for your D-pad. You also have this special move that you can activate with the triggers that makes you go berserk mode, and you also have a break bar for certain enemies. So they have your health bar, then underneath that they have a defense bar, and once that depletes, they're stunned and you can go crazy on them. And then if you press the square and X button, you do a series of special combos that is unique to the certain weapon type you're using. But once you use that, their defense bar goes all the way up instantly. So that's a one-time use once you break their guard. So if you want to do as much damage as possible, continue to wail on them until the bar is about to be fully completed, and then you use that special combo. So you have that. And then speaking of the combos, they can get very lengthy once you've upgraded the weapons enough. So you can really do some devastating damage. And I know a lot of people, when they first played this game, dropped the game within the first hour. But actually, the longer you play, the better it gets, the more combos you unlock, and the crazier things get. So I really liked that. Another aspect of the game that surprised me is the weapon customization. So you can customize your weapons by putting accessories on them, and these accessories give you different buffs, like more break or more attack power, more energy power for your abilities, things of that nature. And the little trinkets you can actually put on the weapon that has these buffs, you can physically like alter where they go on the weapon, so you can personalize the weapon how you want to look, which is pretty cool. And then you also have accessories to put on yourself, on Kaiser, that also give you different buffs. So like attack power again, or you can heal every like 30 seconds, or You could different style of buffs. You take less damage, but you do more damage. Stuff like that. So you have that too, and you can also cosmetically change Kaiser to look a certain way, and you also have this NPC that kind of works like a bonfire, but it doesn't respawn all the enemies, but you regenerate your health and all your potions. And with this NPC you can actually go and do the challenges that you found but have yet to complete, or you want to replay as well. And you can craft potions, you can buy potions off of this NPC, and it's your standard stuff like you would see on a bonfire, which is really cool. And this NPC is sporadically throughout the entire game, and given who this NPC is, like story wise, you're wondering how this person is able to follow you everywhere, but that is explained at the end of the game, which I think was a nice touch. So speaking of the level design is actually all over the place in this game. So it is a linear game, but there's certain parts of the story where it's open-ended. So you have this massive land that you can explore, and then you can do different little mini challenges, which is like not combat challenges, but it's puzzles where you have to collect 5 energy orbs, or you have to collect all the energy orbs in like a racetrack style of challenge. You have those. They're very simplistic, but they're there. And then unfortunately, a lot of these open-ended areas, that's all there is to do, and there's not that many of them out there. So a lot of the world feels empty. And you also have chests that you can find, and some chests give you certain items, usable items, and they also give you XP. So it is worth seeking out these chests if you want to obtain more skill points. And the environments of this game from the different parts of the story is actually very different and varied, and it's really cool. But unfortunately, there's like a lot of open parts that feel very empty, that I think they could have condensed it a lot more. There are environmental puzzles, and some of them are pretty clever and some of them are pretty frustrating. And then the different weapon types that you have actually play a part in doing these environmental puzzles. And the scythe is the most pain in the ass one, because you can use it as a grappling hook, but it's like you just pull yourself, you're not attached to it and swinging. But because of that, when you pull yourself to the access point, you go flying, and you go flying in whatever the game wants you to fly. So now getting into the negatives, the obvious one is performance. So I played it on the PS5 Pro, and the performance for the most part was stable. During the big open sections of the game is where the game really had a little bit of stutters. The cutscenes as well, there's juddering, and then there's like when they cut to a different scene, sometimes the picture of the previous scene flashes before it gets to the next scene, which is weird. And of course the voice acting is all over the place. Like Arena himself, the dragon, the voice actor did a pretty good job, but he talks a lot in combat, and I can see people get really annoyed with him. But I didn't mind him as much. And other things I didn't really like of course how empty certain sections feel, and a lot of the challenges of collecting the orbs are very simplistic, that I wish they could have done more. But it is their first game, and it did take them almost 10 years to make it. But I wasn't someone that followed the game for that entire duration of its development. I just heard of this game maybe last year, and then I totally forgot about it, and then I saw that it was coming out, and I was like, you know what, I'll give it a chance. So other things I didn't really like is I guess the most popular complaint, which I do agree with, is none of your weapons feel like they actually pack a punch from like physically feeling it in the controller. So you can do devastating damage with a combo in this game, but you don't feel it in the controller. Like you don't feel the vibrations that have that impact that you expect it to have given what's going on the screen. I ended up actually checking out of the story, so And that's unfortunate because I know they tried really hard to make this world, this universe, a big fantasy epic. But it didn't work for me. I was like maybe halfway through the story, I was like, okay, I'm alright. I don't really care about what's going on that much anymore. And I just went through the motions and I just enjoyed the combat for what it is. The boss fights are actually pretty cool. They're these epic fights, and of course once you defeat it, you get this epic cutscene of Kaiser killing the boss. But it's just like some of these stretches to get to the boss is really long with not that much to do. I think the game would have been a lot better if they took away the open-ended areas altogether and just made them into the quarter style that they did with the rest of the game. Because this is one of those games where the developers threw pretty much every idea they had to the wall to see what stuck, and whatever didn't stuck unfortunately didn't stick, and then the game suffers for it. It's one of those games. And even so, with all the faults of this game, I did really enjoy it. I'm glad I actually gave it a chance, because I was someone that had zero expectations. I didn't follow the development, like I said. This game does feel like one of those games that came out during the 6th generation on PS2 and Xbox, where developers during that time were very experimental and were ready to take risks to create a game. And this game feels right out of that era, and honestly I like it better because of that. Because a lot of developers nowadays just do sequels. Not a lot of developers are willing to do a new IP because it's so risky. But I'm glad that the guy that actually started this, because it was started off as a project, a passion project for one guy. I'm glad that he at least put this game out. Even with all of its faults, he should be proud for what he put out, because even though it does have performance issues, it's very minimal on console. But yeah, now the question you're probably wondering, do I recommend this game right now? Honestly, I would say no. If you are someone that has been following the development, for sure, you probably either already bought it or you already turned off by this game. But yeah, this game is $60, and you do get some fun combat encounters here, some cool boss fights, but everything else is a hit or miss. And honestly, it really is up to you. I honestly think the sweet spot for this game is $40, and if you can wait to have the game be that price, or even $30, I think that's like the sweet spot. 30 to 40 bucks. I don't think this game should have been 60. But it does have, the $60 look with the graphics, but everything else is just a mixed bag. But I did really like it. But if you want to play something that is reminiscent of those games from the PS2 and Xbox era, then you will probably enjoy this. But like I said, it's totally up to you. But I did get my $60 worth. So yeah, that is everything I have to say about this game. So that was Lost Soul aside. So once again, like I do every week, what games did you play? What are your thoughts on it? Unfortunately, I did not get to play Metal Gear Solid Delta this week. It's been kind of a crazy week this week. Unfortunately, my grandfather ended up passing away on Wednesday, so I wasn't really able to play anything else because I wanted to be there with my family. And yeah, so hopefully this upcoming week, for next week's update, I will play and hopefully have beaten Metal Gear Solid Delta, but we will see. So anyways guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.